So it says consider for a moment, just a moment, this equation. And we're going to fill in the table of values below and then graph it. So that's easy enough. So by that, I mean we're going to plug in these numbers for x. You know, doing our little XY chart. This is something we're pretty good at. And this will help reinforce, if you didn't watch the lessons before, hopefully I can fill in some blanks. But do make sure you go back and watch those. They're just, I timed myself. I made sure they were 15 minutes or less because I knew I wouldn't want to sit there for that long recording them and you wouldn't want to watch them for that long. So, here we go. So, all we're going to do is plug these numbers in for x. So, f of x is 2 to the negative 2. And how do we get rid of a negative exponent? Flip it, yeah. We flip it. So, it's 1 over 2 to the positive 2. So, that's 1/4. What about 2 to the negative 1? Yep, 1 over 2 to the positive 1, which is indeed 1/2. 2 to the 0. Yeah, anything to the 0 power is 1. 2 to the first. 2. 2 squared. Yeah. So we have, 5 points that we can now come over here and graph. So x is negative 2, y is 1/4. X is negative 1, y is 1/2. 0, 1. 1, 2, 2, 4. So we can see that that's an exponential function. Looking at that picture, would you say it's growth or decay? It's growth. It's definitely starting low. And then as you go from left to right, it's going up. So that's a growth function. Where do you think the horizontal asymptote is?
0.
0. Yep. It's because this number is getting closer and closer, or not this number, this line. It's getting closer and closer to the x-axis. It's not supposed to ever touch it. So I'm going to draw in a dotted line there. Now in the other lessons, we learned that you can look at the equation and whatever is added on the end, which there's nothing added on the end of this, that's your horizontal asymptote. So if you missed that lesson, that's another way we could get that so you wouldn't have to graph it every time. You could look at it. Another thing is if the sign in front of the 2, it would normally be in parentheses here. And if there was a negative something out in front, then that means that it would be below the horizontal asymptote. So it would have been, down here somewhere. And that was something from the other lessons. All right. So let's look at the next one. This time it's f of x equals 1/2 to the x. knowing what we know now, can I just look at the equation and tell what the horizontal asymptote is going to be? Zero. It's whatever is added or subtracted on the end here, and there's nothing. So that means, I know we don't have to have it there, but it's going to help us when we graph it. It should be getting closer and closer to that line. So we're going to plug in these numbers for x into this yellow equation. So it's 1/2 to the x, which is -2. What do we do if it's a negative? Flip it. So it's +2. You can put it over 1 if you want to, but we know 2 over 1 is just 2. Squared, which would be 4. Okay, you fill in the other ones. Jose, fill in the next blank. What's it going to be? 2. That's right. It's 1/2, then -1. Flip it. It's 2 to the first, which is 2. What's the next one, Jenna?
2. Oh, wait, finish it on. 1.
1, yep. It's 1/2 to the 0. Anything to the 0 power is always 1. Kendrick, what's the next one? It is. 1/2 to the first is 1/2. And what about the next one?
1/4.
Yeah. 1/2 squared is 1/4. To square a fraction, you just square the top number and the bottom number. So 1 squared, that's 1 times 1, it's 1. 2 squared, 2 times 2, that's 4. So now we can just graph these. So -2, 4, -1, 2, 0, 1, 1, 1/2, 2, 1/4. So we can tell this one's growth or decay. Yeah, and it tells us up there it was decay, but it's going down from left to right. Okay, so the next page kind of has a little bit of review from the other sections, which is good. Okay. We talked about shifting and reflecting rules for graphs and different types of functions. So we're going to start with this first one here. If you have a negative in front of the function, then that means it's an x-axis reflection, which means it flips it up and down. Which means the y-coordinates change signs. The x's don't, but the y's go from positive to negative to positive. If the negative is with the x, which means, like if you had the negative right here with the x, so that happens, then it's a y-axis reflection. So it's going to move left and right. It's going to flip across the y-axis. So the x-coordinates are going to change signs. We know that in a function, if you add or subtract a number on the end, for an exponential function, that's going to be your horizontal asymptote, but for every other point, it moves it up or down. It's going to shift it up or down depending on if it's positive or negative. Which means the y-coordinates increase or decrease, depending on what's going on. And these are all things that we've done before. We just did it with other equations. And then if we add or subtract Cn with the x,